Welcome to Spartan Up Podcast. We're shooting here today in Fenway. Joe Sena, founder and CEO of Spartan Race. Knuckles. Johnny. We've got Dr. Laura Pence, our mind doctor, and we've got retired Colonel Tim Nye, who is our military liaison specialist, among other things at Spartan Race.
And happy to be here.
Hey, Tim, we've got a military guest today. Kevin Flike has an incredible story. Just a little bit of his background for us.
Well, we do. He's a Army Green Beret. So that means he goes through specialized training, and it's a pipeline, if you will, of about 2 years. And the training includes language training. It includes advanced marksmanship. It includes survival, escape, and resistance and evasion training. Many things, airborne training, a lot of stuff if you don't have it. But most, if not, I would say 90+% of all the people that come through there come from inside of the Army. And they already have years, 3 to 6 years of background. He came out of college and went right into it. So he had nothing to rely on, no background. And he went into it and made it through. So it's pretty remarkable.
Made it through and almost didn't make it back. I mean, that's the incredible story that we're going to hear. Just before we do go to that, I want to mention that we're here every Tuesday with incredible people, with incredible stories, and you can take tremendous wisdom from those. We also have a couple other programs that are they're quick hits. These are just in and out, just to get you tuned up quickly. So Wednesdays, Dr. Laura Pence has Spartan Mind.
Spartan Mind, right? Just cleaning out that junk that's up here so that you can think better, be better, build yourself into a better human. And then on Thursdays, we've got Zach Avanesh.
Thursday is Zach, great motivational guy. You can't talk to Zach or look at him without feeling better.
Yep.
And he's got the Spartan way, and that's his show.
But we're going to be back after this episode. Kevin Flike, we're going to be just sharing what we got from it, and stick around.
This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Powerful Foods. Fuel your active lifestyle with high protein, no sugar added products. We have a special deal just for our podcast listeners. Go to shop.spartan.com/powerful and save 10% with the code SpartanPower.
Spartan Up Podcast here. I'm Dr. L, filling in for Joe Sena. We're here at the amazing Fenway Ballpark. I've got my podcast team behind me, an incredible view in front of us, and an incredible man, Kevin Flike. Kevin, you have just an extraordinary story, and I just want to jump right in. Tell us where you came from.
Sure. I'm originally from upstate New York in Saratoga. I went to Union College there and was there from 2002 to 2006. Cool. And just had this strong desire to serve the country. Mm-hmm. And so upon graduation, I joined the Army. I volunteered for Special Forces training, and after 2 years of the most intense training I've ever done in my life, earned the Green Beret. And so this is about 2009. I went out to my unit in Fort Lewis in Tacoma, Washington, the 1st Special Forces Group, and then just really got thrown into the frenetic deployment schedule of special operations, and was pretty much deployed for about the next 2.5 years. And between Southeast Asia and Afghanistan, did deployments to the Philippines, Afghanistan, Thailand, then back to Afghanistan. And then that's really where my life got turned upside down.
Yeah, talk about that. So the turning upside down, give our audience a picture of what that looked like. What did you go through there?
So about 7 months into our deployment, our team was doing a mission in the northwestern part of the country called Faryab Province. Mm-hmm. And we landed, and about an hour into the mission that we had, our team came under some heavy fire. And so for the next 10 hours, we battled back and forth in this valley that we were in the 10th hour of the firefight. While I was going around the corner of a building, I felt like all of a sudden somebody came up and hit me in the stomach with a sledgehammer. Yeah. And I was suspended in midair, and as I slammed off the ground, I realized that I had just been shot.
Wow. And so you're with a team, right? So did people know that this had happened? Were they with you right there? Like, were you left alone? Describe kind of what do you remember? I mean, what sort of at this point now? I mean, because I'm sure people have filled in gaps, but what do you remember?
So I remember everything.
Okay.
I was conscious for everything. Just had to fight to keep myself conscious because there's a lot of things I needed to do immediately to try to save my own life. But the Special Forces Green Beret team is 12 guys, and then you work with whatever local, national, military or militia you're with, and so there was probably 10, 15 Americans and 100 Afghans on that mission that day. And so as soon as I had gotten hurt, my first instinct was to call my team, let them know I was hurt, this is my location, and then try to medically start treating myself.
Yeah. So what were the injuries?
I got shot in my stomach right underneath my body armor, just kind of like right here, just another inch up, it would have hit the plates. Oh, wow. But when the bullet went through, it hit my colon, fractured my hip, and it hit my femoral nerve, so it paralyzed my left leg.
Wow. So then you're taken to, I'm assuming, like a medevac somewhere for people to work on you, yes?
Yeah, there was about an hour in between getting shot. Wow. So it was, this was out in the hinterlands of Afghanistan, so it was about 45 minutes from the point of injury to the helicopter, and then a 15-minute ride to the surgery tent. And really the whole time this is going on, I'm thinking to myself, like, this is it. Like, your life's over, you've had a lot of close calls, and this is it.
What is it like to be in that position where you feel like this is it? Like, you feel like you're living your last moments. What's going through your head? What are you thinking?
If you are living your life the way you're supposed to, and you are going out and attacking it every single day and not taking anything for granted, when you're in that moment, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
And, in that moment, I felt like I had done everything I could in my life up until that point because of previous lessons that I had learned on the first deployment to Afghanistan. Right. I hadn't taken anything for granted. So in that moment, I was ready to go if that was the case.
But you didn't go because you're here.
Yeah, thankfully, right?
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about the recovery and sort of what happened next in terms of just not only physically in your body, but up here mentally as well.
Yeah, so initially, when you have an experience like this, you wake up from it, you are just so happy to be alive.
Right.
And that was kind of the case with me. And I think the mentality probably a lot of your listeners have, or learning to develop to listen, like I was going to will myself to get better. Mm-hmm. Nothing was going to stop me. Mm-hmm. After several months of physical therapy, my stomach healed, my hip healed, but my leg began to atrophy to the point the size of my arm.
Wow. So,
that required going to the Mayo Clinic, experimental surgery. It took about 18 months. They took a nerve from my left leg and grafted it into my stomach to gain extension back. And it took 18 months to be able to gain that full range of motion. And during that process, it was happy I was making such progress, but at the end of the day, I went from a college football player, Green Beret, to a man that needed help putting on his socks.
Yeah.
And so that mental toll, emotional toll, say I spent a lot of time on my couch at night with a drink in my hand and tears on my face, kind of questioning God as to why I survived my injuries only to suffer so much.
Sure. So how did you pull yourself out of that? Was somebody there to help you pull out of that sort of state of desperation and sadness and grief? How did you move out of that position?
Thankfully, I had an incredible supporting cast. My wife and I have been together since we were 18. She stuck with me throughout the whole process. She's a New Englander, so she's real tough and gives it to me straight. And so she was there with me the whole time. I had a great family, great friends that had been wounded before me. They kind of looked out for me throughout the whole time.
Yeah.
An incredible support staff for my physical therapy. My team was still behind me.
Yeah.
But I always tell people you can have the best support staff in the entire world, but at the end of the day, it's one person.
Right. You
got to wake up every day and you got to make that decision to go forward.
Right. Yeah. So I want to even circle back. You became a Green Beret, right? Which takes a whole. That in and of itself is an extraordinary accomplishment. So I'm curious, sort of how you took even that and it helped your recovery. You being the one man who's going to help yourself the most.
Right. The Special Forces training, I think, just set me up for success in life.
Okay.
Because it just taught me the value of long-term goals. It took me 2 years from the day I joined the Army to the day I became a Green Beret. Mm-hmm. And so at the whole time, I had to have this concept of all right, you're going to get your Green Beret. It's this very long-term goal. But when you're going on your 4th day without sleep and without eating and you're walking around the woods of North Carolina, sometimes that goal can get a little fuzzy.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of learned the importance of setting up small milestones along the way to benchmark my success, to celebrate, so I don't lose sight of that bigger goal.
Sure. And I bet that helped in recovery too, the small goals.
Yeah. That was it, right? That's what I had to do. I'm laying in the hospital bed in the intensive care unit in Germany, and I'm like, I want to run again.
Right.
It's like, all right, well, you got to get out of the hospital first.
Right.
Then you got to stop using a wheelchair. Then you got to stop using a walker. And so set these little milestones for myself along the way.
Yeah. Were there moments that you wanted to quit?
All the time. I always wanted to quit, but at the end of the day, I just couldn't let the people down that believed in me so much and have been helping me.
Yeah. What do you think created for you that ability to see that you had it within yourself. I mean, other than the training that you got before, right? Like, we talk about grit a lot at Spartan and things. What about that? Do you think that was helpful, just knowing that you had to keep working, you had to keep pushing? Was it just a knowing that you were great? What was inside also that was kind of helping push?
I think the first thing you want to do whenever you're going to try to do something that's near impossible, or just even setting goals for yourself, is you got to find something that's going to motivate you to be able to go out there and not quit. And so that was the first thing that I did. What are the things that are going to motivate me, the people that I can't let down?
Yeah, that's awesome. This is awesome. And it's just the first half of your story, because then you go on to get these amazing degrees, which we're going to talk about in a minute. We're going to take a quick break, maybe do some burpees. All right. You might be able to teach you a little bit more about recovery and physical activity. So we're going to take a break, and when we'll come back, we'll talk about those other things.
All right, sounds good.
We're going to be right back to this great episode of Spartan Up Podcast. But right now, it's the end of the day. We're in Lake Tahoe at the Spartan Race World Championships. I'm going to talk about the start of the day. Powerful foods. And
for powerful places. So
first time I've ever had one of these in my life was yesterday. Strawberry banana smoothie made with Greek yogurt, no sugar, all natural ingredients. I got to admit, the first time I drank it because the response was handed to me. You got it, right? It's true.
Seems like the right thing to do.
Seems like the right thing to do, the noble thing to do. Yeah. Anyway, took some home, threw it in the fridge, not home. Took some back to the great, wonderful place I'm staying. When I got up this morning at 5:30, the other end of the day, wasn't even light yet to come meet you guys, starved. I knew nothing would be open. I opened my fridge and I'm like, oh, thank God, one of those powerful smoothies is in there.
That's breaking your fast after the night breakfast.
This is my breakfast.
Yeah.
I broke my fast with a powerful smoothie.
Yep.
Got Greek yogurt into me.
For a powerful day.
The neat thing is it's got some substance to it. It's not just one of those sugary, watery things. The strawberry and the banana, you can actually taste it. You can even sort of feel the little bits in it because it actually is a smoothie. And the Greek yogurt. And you were telling me off camera about how important that is for my belly.
Live cultures. Yeah, good cultures for your belly and your gut flora. And I also like what you said about for people when they're out on the trails, this is easy after you drink it to roll it up and it doesn't take up that much space.
You're not leaving it on the trail, you're putting it in your pocket, exactly. And now talk about my favorite thing in the world.
I had to take these away from him because
he
won't stop eating them. But this is peanut butter and chocolate, and there's no sugar added, and they're just these little bites that basically look like, before you make a cookie, like cookie dough. Yep. So it's a real treat. And
I'm a connoisseur
coconut oil, whey protein.
It's all good stuff.
Peanut butter.
I'm a connoisseur of chocolate peanut butter, and I swear to God I was impressed.
Johnny approved.
Speaking of impressed, we're going back to a very impressive episode. But first, I'm going to suggest that you take advantage of this. We have an offer where you get
10% off. You get 10% off if you use the code SpartanPower, and you go to shop.spartan.com/powerful.
Boom.
So we'll see you there.
Hey, what's up, Spartans? Hope you're enjoying the podcast. We'll get back to that in just a minute. I'm Anne LaRue here, and we're going to continue on our 31 habits of the healthiest Spartans. Back on habit 2, we talked about creating a hydration plan. Today, we're going to build off of that. And this is what I call set it and forget it. So, a little bit about hydration once again. It's important to understand that the body absorbs the hydration a lot better when we take it in small amounts over a course of the day versus trying to take in 16 ounces of water all in one big gulp, which is going to leave you running to the bathroom. We're going to try to take in smaller amounts that the body can fully absorb. So that's what I call set it and forget it. I do this habit almost every day when I feel like I'm really needing it. So this is what I want you to try. When you get up in the morning, let's say you're going to grab your cup of coffee or whatever it is you do first thing, I want you to start by taking in somewhere between 4 to 8 ounces of water. At that point, you're going to turn to your phone or some other device that can remind you. I like to use my smartphone because I know I'm always going to have it on me. And I set the timer. I set it for 60 minutes. And when it goes off, I take another 4 to 6 ounces of water in, just some gulps. Then I hit the timer. And I do this all day, goes off every 60 minutes, and usually by about dinner time is when I decide to turn it off. This way, I don't have to think and remind myself to drink water. My phone's going to do that for me. And every single time, I take the gulps, and I'm good to go. So set it and forget it. Build your hydration plan stronger every day. That's habit number 9. We'll be back next week to do habit number 10. If you'd like a full list of all 31 habits of the healthiest Spartans, go to life.spartan.com/habits. You're awesome at burpees.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I had a lot of practice in the military.
Yeah, I bet. Okay, so second part of your story is you're moving through all this physical recovery, and then you go get some degrees, right? And not just sort of small. I mean, Harvard and MIT, right?
Yeah.
And what were the degrees that you got?
I did my MBA from the MIT Sloan School of Management and my Master's of Public Administration from the Harvard Kennedy School of Government.
So talk to us about that route. I mean, it seems like a pivot maybe, but it might not be for you. What moved you in that direction?
I've just kind of always been a fan of setting these ridiculous goals for myself in life, and then, trying as best I can to go after them. And so this actually going to a top graduate school was something that motivated me. My wife, she bought me a book called How to Get into a Top Graduate School when I got out of business school, or when I got out of the hospital.
Yeah.
And so I really just kind of tailored everything towards that and thinking about that. That was this light at the end of the tunnel for me. That's what forced me to get off of my pain meds and really get my act together there. And so initially I was denied at Harvard Kennedy School of Government.
Okay.
I was waitlisted at MIT, and as soon as I found out I was waitlisted, I bought a ticket from Seattle to Boston, and I flew across the country. I walked up to the admissions office unannounced and was like, "Hey, can you guys let me in now?"
Nice.
And 3 months later, got in, and then that fall reapplied to the Harvard Kennedy School and was accepted to pursue concurrent masters.
So there seems to be this common theme here of hard work, right? I mean, and not only of hard work, but of setting goals for yourself and then like going towards them, really. I mean, I think a lot of times people set goals, but they kind of wake up and they're like, well, the goals may be optional. But it sounds for you like some of these goals were not optional. Like you went at it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like if I'm saying I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to fail repeatedly, but I'm eventually going to get what I want.
Yeah.
Because I just keep in the back of my mind, those ideals or those people that I can't let down, and think about at some point I will achieve what I want. It might not be today and it might not be tomorrow, but at some point I'm going to get there. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that's a theme that you've said now twice is that your wife pushed, right, and she's been behind you, which. I mean, in these podcasts before, and certainly in my own life and in the work that I do, the importance of having that team around you, having those people around you that can not only support you and pat you on the back, but like pat you on the back and then push you a little bit forward, right? It seems like that was key.
I would say my wife did a lot more pushing than patting on the back. That's kind of her
That's
MO.
awesome.
But for sometimes I think I need that there.
Yeah.
And you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most.
Yeah, we get that, yeah.
So if you want to be successful in life, you got to surround yourself with incredible people.
That's awesome.
So I had a great time in the military because I had a great team. I had a great recovery because I had a great crew supporting me.
Yep.
And I think my life's amazing right now. I try to surround myself with positive people.
That's awesome. So we like to kind of wrap things up with 3 things that the audience can take away that really, what are things that they can do at home to think better, to be better, to build up the people around them. From your own experience and from the things that you've gone through, what 3 things would you pull out for the audience?
I think setting goals, right? Mm-hmm. Always be setting goals for yourself. If you have an idea, it's just an idea. Write it down, make a goal for yourself.
Right.
And then you have to back yourself into that goal. Yeah. You have to say, this is the goal, this is the plan, and then you got to really thoroughly understand the sacrifice it's going to take to get there.
And it sounds like with goals, you weren't afraid of making goals for yourself that were hard. I mean, that maybe, weren't small, but that were kind of big in nature, but you knew that you had to do small goals to get to that big one. I mean, you set extraordinary goals for yourself.
Yeah, and I want to just continue to do that the rest of my life, because if I'm not failing, then I'm not reaching high enough.
Yeah. Okay, so great. 1, set goals, big goals, and know that you've got to meet the little ones to get there. What's number 2?
I'd say, number 2 is fail early and often.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Say more about, what about failure is critical for you?
Failure is incredible if you learn from it. Mm-hmm. If you fail, try, and you keep doing the same thing, that's just the definition of insanity.
Right.
But if you fail, learn from it, and then fix your mistakes, failure is the best teacher out there.
That's awesome. What would you say was one of your biggest failures?
I think my first deployment to Afghanistan.
Okay.
Culturally, you have to be very attuned to the people you're working with, the languages, the customs, and I just didn't put enough time into that.
Gotcha.
And it didn't build the rapport with the soldiers that I needed to make the mission successful, to make the training successful. And it was something I thought about a lot when I got home from that first deployment, and something I really tried to rectify on that second one.
Gotcha. Okay, so goals, Fail early and fail often.
Mm-hmm.
What's number 3?
Number 3. Yeah, putting me on the spot here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say, just don't be afraid of anything.
Yeah.
You get out there. The only thing that's going to happen to you is you might not get what you want, but it's going to lead you down the path that you want to go in life. Right. I'm in a position right now that 5 years ago I never thought I'd be in, mm-hmm. but I wasn't afraid to go out and try new things and be open to new situations.
Mm-hmm. Were there moments along your journey when you were afraid?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Afraid all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, afraid. Being afraid is, people say, like, you can't be afraid. The thing is you can be afraid,
right.
and you should be. But the courage is going forward when the outcome is uncertain.
Right.
And so just conquering that fear and just putting it to the side and moving forward.
Right. Brave and afraid at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're amazing. Congratulations on all the hard work you've done.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me here today.
It's a pleasure and an honor to sit next to someone like you.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Harvard, MIT. Are you kidding me? I mean, after getting to know you, Colonel Nye, I didn't know you guys had that kind of intelligence.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
Well, I don't, and he's pretty remarkable. But he's remarkable on one hand, and on the other hand, I think he does kind of represent the incredible men and women we have in the military, mm-hmm. and especially in our special operations. I mean, the people that make multiple cuts and raise their hand multiple times to volunteer for different things and different training. So we have a lot of guys and gals out there like that. But it's always amazing when you sit down and actually hear an individual story, and to go from college to being an enlisted soldier and then going off to combat and then going off to Harvard and MIT, it's not a normal path.
Mm-hmm. Well, what percentage of the folks in special ops would take that path?
There's actually quite a few that get to Harvard. There is a path line to Harvard. Special operations has slots, if you will, at Harvard. So when you say, hey, I want to go to Harvard, when you're in, the Army will send you, and then Harvard will say, okay, well, the Army's paying, and they've already vetted the guy, so there's a path that's already there. But he was out, so he had to do all of this on his own.
Yeah.
So a little bit more unusual.
Yeah.
One of the things that I loved while I was sitting there interviewing him was when he talked about that when he thought these were his last moments and his last few breaths, that he reflected on his life in such a positive way, that if this is his time to go, he's been a stand-up guy. He's done what he wanted to do. He's worked hard. That to me was really inspiring, because may we all have those moments, right? Or I guess that one moment.
We hear from different people who say, you should live with no regrets.
Right.
This guy who had that unique, unwished for opportunity to actually put it through a process and say, do I have regrets?
You were upside down in a tree getting shot at, Colonel Nye. Did any of those thoughts go through your mind years ago? Like, I just wonder how many people have regrets or just are at peace with it.
No, I don't. At that moment for me, and that's many years ago, I was just trying to get out of it. I was focusing on what was in front of me. I wasn't hurt yet, and I wasn't. So that was just, I need to get out of where I'm at. But I'll tell you, I'll flash forward to 2003 Iraq, and I was talking to a TV reporter who is on TV every day. You see him every day still. He's an anchor. And I told him to get in a vehicle, and he told me I was an irrational man because we had about a 100-mile journey to go. It was going to be me, him, and one other guy, the cameraman. And I said, well, we got to go. And he said, you got to tell me the risk. I said, what do you mean the risk? He said, well, what's the risk? I said, the risk is we could die today. And he said, well, that's irrational. I said, well, why do you care how it happens? Yeah. Do you care if we get shot or blown up or whatever? Get in the truck. We're going. That's the bottom line. Now, what I knew was about a mile down the road was a convoy. I'm not crazy. I'm not driving across 100 miles by myself. But he didn't know that. But still, I was ready for the consequences, right? For kind of the same reason. I knew who I was and what I was ready. He clearly was not.
Speaking of being ready, that's the other thing I loved about this interview is, we talk about, hey, military and then Harvard and MIT. It wasn't that easy and that direct. Like, he worked really hard to get in there. He worked really hard to get to where he was. He worked really hard to survive. Like he talked about, like, I really thought I was going to die. Comes back, and instead of resting on his laurels and going to graduate school, didn't get accepted right away. Didn't get accepted at all. Then he found out he's on the short list or the waiting list. What do you say? He jumped in the plane and flew across the country to walk up to the guy's door and say, hey, I really want to get in here. What do I need to do? 3 months later, gets a call that you're in. And what I really loved about that is a lot of times the person for whom it doesn't come easy is going to be a lot better in the long run. I have a good friend back home who's a doctor, head of emergency at a Rocky Mountain hospital. He got turned down many times. I think he was 5 years out of school before he got into medical school. But he never stopped studying, never stopped working, never stopped interviewing and applying and getting to know these people. And he's the doctor I want to go to, not the guy who just breezed through and memorized everything, did well in the tests, and doesn't care. This guy cared so much. And so that guy, too, here's a guy who knew what he wanted to do, didn't get accepted right away. And instead of just turning away, he said, I'm going to do what it takes to get there. So that
super inspirational.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like a little less of a person after sitting with you.
No, see, because those two statements are inverse of each other. I mean, they are inspirational because if he can do it, you can do it. If he can do it, others can do it, kind of stuff. It may make you say, well, why don't I? So I get it, but you don't feel less. You feel inspired.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, that's the goal of the show. So I think that's what
All right, we're all inspired.
So I think that's what we're doing.
With that.
Yeah. Hey, with that, make sure you come back every week. Like you say, we're here on Tuesdays. We've got this incredible show. Thanks for being here.
This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Powerful Foods. Fuel your active lifestyle with high-protein, no-sugar-added products. We have a special deal just for our podcast listeners. Go to shop.spartan.com/powerful and save 10% with the code SpartanPower. Thanks for listening to Spartan Up. We're here to be your partner in resilience training for mind, body, and spirit. We've got tips on leadership, the Spartan mindset, Spartan nutrition, just living life like a Spartan. Almost every day of the week, we're here to help you stay on track. And if you like the show, help us on our mission. We want to rip 100 million people off the couch and give them the tools to keep going. And the best marketing for podcasts like this is people like you. So please tell your friends about it and come back whenever you can. We'll be here for you.